Hi Jane, what brings you to Learning Tech?
I love the summer forum because it's smaller, people are more engaging. We're here today because we're doing a number of things. We've got a stand, we've got a presence here because we want to make sure people see the evidence of what works. But I've also been presenting today and launching some new research to the market around self-determined learning and Heutagogy, basically.
Right. I'll have to ask you to explain what Heutagogy is, I think. We're here launching research as well, so we're both here on the same subject, so it'd be good to share some ideas and insights, I suppose, that we're finding from the two pieces of research.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved your research. I actually utilised some of your research in my session because it was great to see that we had some similar themes coming out, and I think that's really important for the market to see because there's a lot of fake news out there.
Yes.
So the more that we can share fact and stuff that's really going to help them, the better.
Yeah.
The other thing I loved about your research is the way that it was presented because it was digestible, it was really engaging, and I love the fact that there's going to be a series of things rather than a one-off, because that really helps people keep going and listening and using it for business cases and getting buy-in, etc.
Well, thanks for the feedback. We're pretty proud of it. I mean, for us it was a much bigger piece of research than we've done before. So learning insights is a regular thing for us, as you know, every year, but it's the first time we've gone as big and as bold and gone directly to employees, so getting some of the employee direct insight. And actually we've ended up getting so much back. We are going to have to do it in the way you've described, of doing 3 or 4 releases of insight, because we've got more to analyse yet. But we're really proud of that. What are we at? 6,500 employees, I think 6,500 employees and 1,300 employers, and really interesting to look at the insights across 13 different countries as well. Yeah, so for us it's quite a lot.
No, definitely. And what were some of the surprises for you that you found?
Well, we're just really interested to see, I suppose, the difference in opinion between L&D professionals and what they're trying to provide, and the data coming from their work and their insight into what they're trying to achieve, and then the employee's own perspective on that. And at the moment, I suppose we're concentrating more on what the employees think. So our first series of insights are about, I suppose, the disconnection between an employee's excitement about learning. They want companies to. 79% of our respondents want more L&D in their companies, if you like, more learning and development opportunities. But 85% are saying they can't get to the training at work that they want to. So there's a disconnect between the desire, really positive bit of news there about desire for learning, but access to learning. So I suppose one of the insights there is how do we help the L&D community to bridge that gap? And a lot of it's about time. Of course. No,
it's interesting, isn't it, that time's come out. I mean, you asked me earlier a question about what's Heutagogy, what's self-determined learning, and what we know is that the L&D community, learning professionals themselves, have not spent enough time understanding adult learning theories.
Right.
So Heutagogy is another one of those things. And it's very different to self-determined learning. So self-directed learning and self-determined are very different. So we're used to self-directed learning, and this is really about directing people to content, but it's a single loop process, and it's not having any impact on the bottom line impact, either individual, team, function or organisational level. So that's a real issue. So investment, content, resources, everything's on the up, but impact is through the floor. Now, self-determined learning is different. We're seeing a very different thing there, and the difference is it's double loop learning. It's focused on humanising learning. Learning is a behaviour, so we're getting back to basics, getting back to what we did before even schools were in existence, e.g. learning from each other. And for us, 91% of people in our study tell us that they want to learn in collaboration with others.
I just wanted to build a little bit further on some of those points you made though, Jane, because it's really interesting. I mean, the data just tells a story, doesn't it? We're seeing 25% roughly, so one in 4 people saying they haven't got enough time to learn, but 66% learning with the self-directed focus, personalised, at home, using their own devices, using their own resources actually.
And money.
And money, exactly. So there's a gap there. And at the moment, the data for us wouldn't suggest there's a difference between any of the generations in that, but we will be looking further at that. But the insight really is about, for me anyway, it's about content and context. So if you can't get the content at work, you'll find it quickly through Google, and you'll get what you're given out of Google, and you'll start to know what works really well for you. But it's not in the context of work at that point. So you haven't got quite an easier job to translate that into the work context and apply it, and also I suppose get the benefit of applying it at work. So that's the impact piece, both on your personal career, because your manager doesn't necessarily know you've done it, and you can't evidence that you've done it because you've done it at home. But also on the organisation, because you've not got that loop going around of applying it at work, and the reinforcement, I suppose, of that, perhaps some of that double loop that you're talking about as well. So yeah, learning at home is a great thing that people are starting to do, and the devices enable them to do that, and all of the initiatives from the companies we all work with. But actually, when it happens outside of the work context, something is lost in terms of that impact to the organisation. At least that's what the data seems to be telling me. So I think it's about L&D thinking more about impact, thinking more about being a performance improvement function, if you like. And understanding how the different generations work in that context, but not making assumptions either about that difference.
And we see exactly the same, and like you, we're uncovering more all the time. But it absolutely isn't about age or gender, which is often the perception. We see it's about attitude to learning, and what we've uncovered is that there are personas when it comes to learning, the same as there are when you're shopping, and there's consumer habits. There are habits, there are some best times to learn, there's some things that don't have traction. But it's really interesting because today only 50% of L&D professionals, or less than actually analyse a need before recommending a solution. Now that's very different to high performing learning cultures that we track, which are up in the 80s. Now that isn't good. Now what even makes that even the figure even more of a disaster and concerning is that they're analysing a training need rather than a performance need. So already we've started in the wrong place.
If organisations, if L&D were to focus on solving those bigger problems internally, process, product knowledge, environmental industry knowledge, which again our research suggests is not being done anything like strongly enough. So just concentrate on the basics in terms of company performance. Spend your money there on some bespoke solutions, but curate the rest. There's some great stuff out there. There's some great open educational materials, and all the values of the TED Talks and so on. Do a great job at curating that to make it relevant to your industry context, and then the data seems to suggest to me, spend your money on the stuff that's really specific to your company context.
John, it's great to share this stuff we've learned already, but it seems to me like there's an opportunity for us to think about how we could do some more collaboration and think about this in order to help the industry and the market, because I know that you guys are really passionate about this, the same as us. And at the moment, it's the first time that we've seen the impact go backwards. And we're going into free fall. So as I've said, investment, resources, content going up, impact going through the floor. So what's your views on how we can take some of this forward?
I just think we've got to do it, Jane. City and Guilds Group is committed to impact, whether it be at an individual level, for an organisation, or for the whole of an economy. And we're investing a lot of time and effort into trying to demonstrate that skill development of all kinds and in all manners improves performance at all those levels, individual, team, company and economy. So we're doing a lot of work on it. I think a lot of the data we've got will help us to understand what we can do, and your data is incredibly rich and incredibly valuable, and if we can put those two sets together and just continue to talk about what the insights are that drive out of that, because you've got some really deep insights into the professional community, and I think we've started to get some really rich insights into the individual's perspective, and also perhaps the company overall, decision makers in the company, not necessarily even L&D, because people are sort of making decisions about how to spend money, and I suppose it's those people in the end we've got to get to in my opinion anyway, try and stop this counter-secular cycle of counter-cycle of saying, well, the company's doing badly, so we'll stop the investment in skill development. So you've got to do the opposite. Then. That's when you really need to spend the money, and it's a natural knee-jerk reaction, but I think we need the data about impact to prove that's the wrong thing to do. You know, step up your investment. So love to collaborate more. I think your insights are incredibly valuable. I get more and more out of them every time I engage. So let's work out how we can put the data sets together and work out what the correlation tells us.
I absolutely agree, definitely.
Yeah. So we've coined a phrase. I suppose you end up always coining a phrase, don't you? The first phase of our learning insights we're calling micro-learning personal networks. And the micro-learning, I guess, is widely known about personalisation, bite-sized and all those things. But we talked earlier on about the importance of the personal network and learning from people that you work with closely, who you can admire and respond to, your peers or your manager, or just people in a wider community who've done it before and you can trust. And I think that's one of the huge benefits of some of the technologies and insight that we're driving through. That, as you say, the ability to take what would have been done perhaps at home back into a more social environment where you can learn from. So hugely valuable.